I'm very grateful to Neil Farwell, who supported me at the Mythic tier and brings you today's video. Teval the Balanced Scale versus Oboon, Teval and Winter. As I always say, we've got two chances of actually seeing a decent game with Teval now. Now then, are we going to get into another green? I want to play with that Teval's Judgment, and we can rely on the other Teval player across the table to actually show us a decent showing with this commander. So yeah, Gaia's Cradle can tap for a black mana until we get a creature in. We quite eagerly need green mana, but hopefully we'll be able to get into that sooner than later. Just some lands for our opponents. That is an Animate Dead. Let's just get out the tap land. An artifact land for Winter we'll have to keep an eye on. Deathrite Shaman from Teval. We'll be able to exile lands from our graveyard, which we might not like to see. Okay, a blue mana. It's just green we're avoiding, apparently. Well, we've got Urborg, so I'll get Sink into Stupor into play as a tap land, I think. Grapple with the Past, mill 3. Then return a creature or land from graveyard to hand. So there's Stinkweed Imp. They had a tome of something or other. Valgavoth has made it into the bin as well. What on earth is that supposed to be? Anyway, Stinkweed Imp can dredge 5 whenever they want to fill up the graveyard, so might do it here, they do. So puts 5 cards from the top into the bin. Sol Ring, Monster Manual, Shadow Grange Archfiend, Swamp and Ripples of Undeath. Plays a Wooded Foothills into a Bayou, so we know they've got another land available to them. And then it's Entis Restoration, so sack a land to put 2 into play. And they give up on the quite fragile artifact land. Gaining some mana from Deathrite Shaman by sacrificing his own fetch. So exiling that from the graveyard. He has a Misty Rainforest from turn 1 available there as well. So this is a turn 3 Teval by the looks of it. The Naya player throws out Sprouting Goblin. If it was kicked, search for a land, put it into your hand. They paid 3 for it, so I'm assuming, yep, they went for a basic Plains. Now, I would love to see a green mana here so that we can ramp ahead a little bit, but worst case scenario, we just get down the Teval's Judgment. Well, we're drawing into lands, but not seeing the colours that we need, unfortunately. But we can at least get some stuff done here, although I've just remembered we have Animate Dead, don't we? Why don't we reanimate the Valgavoth? So there we are, we've got ourselves a turn 3 Valgavoth. What I could have done there, if we keep this creature in play, we've got green mana next turn onto Gaia's Cradle, so we can fix our colours better. I wouldn't have thought anyone would be going for spot removal onto this so early in the game. And us having Valgavoth in play is going to really hurt Winter, assuming that he wants to carry on with self-mill. Played a Tomb Fortress, which is what he grabbed before, the land that I didn't get a chance to have a look at. And then plays a Funeral Rites. Draw 2, lose 2, mill 2. So he milled Peerless Recycling and Lotus Field. This Valgavoth is likely to hurt Teval as well. Raminamp Excavator allows him to play the fetch, and then when he cracks that fetch he won't be able to make use of it with Deathrite Shaman because it's going to get exiled. Gets his first Zombie Druid though by playing it from the bin. If he can get into enough zombies, which he's going to have trouble doing because he's got nothing in his graveyard, but that would give him the sack fodder to pay the ward on Valgavoth. Decides to crack the Misty Rainforest during the second main, so that might have hurt him because he could have had 3 mana available here. Oh, he's still got a land over here. Alright, so Deathrite Shaman can still make the additional mana by sacrificing or exiling a swamp from this graveyard. Sidisi, Region of the Maya. Sacrifice a creature you control, tap, and return a creature card from graveyard to the battlefield. The mana value matters, but you get the gist. Cactus Preserve, that's a manland. X is the greatest mana value amongst commanders, so is a 4/4 with reach. And swings into the left. I'm going to have to make use of the green mana off Gaia's Cradle as soon as I can because I'm going to swing in Valgavoth over there and I don't want him to scoop. Alright, there's a Mesmeric Orb when we just so happen to have Valgavoth available. Gaia's Cradle, tap that for green immediately for an untapped green with Nature's Law. Alright, so now we've got the colours fixed. We can go Kodama's Reach if we feel like it. I don't think we necessarily need to go for Funeral Rites yet. So let's go through to the attacks straight away. And swing to the left, because I'm still worried about the graveyard from the Winter player. So they go down to 23, we go up to 48. Let's play the Kodama's Reach. Then we don't have to think about it next turn. A Mesmeric Orb here as well, so we could really start to decimate the players' libraries if we get one into play as well. Decides to play Winter. I'm not sure what creatures they've got available, because as I always point out, the graveyard tab is still unfixed on Magic Online after all these years. He's probably going after... no, that's the Exile Zone. Oh no, that is what he's going for. The Shadowgrange Archfiend. So when it enters, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Yeah, so he gets back his... or I'm assuming he does, yeah, Valgavoth back in the bin. There's a Phyrexian Tower here, so sacrifices the token in order to make some additional mana. And Teval comes back into play after being forced to sacrifice by the demon. It's just a bunch of lands, a Deadly Rollick, and Awaken the Honoured Dead in the bin. That's off the Mesmeric Orb, of course. And now over here we see Wild Growth, Heaven and Earth, and then a couple of lands again. A Boon Moldaya Ancestor into play, and puts a plus counter on itself before going through to combat, and turns the mountain into a manland for 4, haste and trample. Hits us. I'm hoping Winter gets the respect it deserves, because this is a scary one. So we mill as well. Insidious Roots, Noxious Gearhulk, 6, Lightning Greaves, 3-Tree City and a Shockland, and a Consecrated Sphinx. Do we just have to go for that? Trigger the Field of the Dead for the first time? Yeah, I think we're just going for the Consecrated Sphinx. It's an interesting game. We're doing absolutely nothing to do with our commander so far. See if he can blow up the Sphinx at instant speed before he draws a card into it. Mesmeric Orb will mill his own graveyard as well. And hopefully we'll be able to get rid of the Valgavoth if we manage to keep making zombie tokens like I pointed out before. Which is why I'm glad that I held on to Fel the Profane after all. I was considering making that a tap land at some point, but we've managed to keep up on the lands. Did our opponent not draw a card there? Oh, he must have dredged instead. So once again we're struggling to keep up with the graveyard here. Life from the Loam is dredge as well, and this is going to fetch back some lands. Nothing of note really. Darkmoss Bridge is an artifact land, a fetch and a shock. And we've got Terrastodon, Nyxbloom to worry about, Head Shredder, Apex Altasaur, Valgavoth's Lair. The War in Heaven is a saga as well. Plays the Wooded Foothills. The Commander is a 2-5 going into the right against the 4-4. Does have Death Touch, which makes sense there, and as you would expect, the 8-4 swinging in at us. Mills 3 more cards with Winter's ability, a Sir Conrad, Cultivate and a Basic. I think I'm going to take the damage because I want as many bodies in play as possible to pay the ward on Valgavoth, like I said. So at the end step he's going to exile more stuff. Apex Altasaur comes into play, so unfortunately the Consecrated Sphinx is not going to do much of anything. Goes for the weaker creatures first. Exiles a land in response, which will make a mana for him, but might have just been doing that for the sake of a zombie. And then just goes straight in for the Consecrated Sphinx, so that dies. This is on 5 damage markers, and goes up to 9 damage markers, getting rid of the Aboon. So DC activated in order to bring back the Teval. He sacrificed the Ramunap in order to do that. There is a Living Death in the bin here, which is noteworthy. Then sacrifices his other creature to make a couple of black mana with the Phyrexian Tower, and that allows him, we've got that in this deck as well, a Will of the Sultai. So all lands from graveyard to the battlefield, and X plus counters on a creature. It gains trample until the end of the turn, so this is now a 15/15 commander. A Springbloom Druid from the Naya player, sack a land and get a couple of lands into play. Then play Savine's Reclamation just to get back a basic forest into play from the graveyard. So we've effectively done nothing for an entire turn cycle. Mesmeric Orb, going to continue to mill us. There we see Villis, there's Conduit of Worlds, Lotus Cobra, Lich Knight's Conquest would be good if we could get a bunch of tokens into play and reanimate some of this stuff. Alright, there's Ace of DC. Let's play a land, triggering the Field of the Dead. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5 for Sidisi. I think I want to get down Teval here so that we can start swinging in with it. And then next turn it might be worth Sidisi, and hopefully we'll be able to still go for living death. Oh, maybe the board will get dealt with, so is it worth going for that now? Let's just do it now. There's every chance that we could mill the living death as well. I best make sure, actually. I should have done this before. Yeah, we've definitely not seen it yet. There's every chance that we could mill the living death between now and then as well, so I'd rather just get it into hand, sacrifice the zombie token. This gives us a decent blocker to sit in the way of the attackers as well. So I'll try and go living death. It might work way more in the favour of the Golgari player is the problem, but we've done nothing this game, whatever, just go for that. We can't predict what our opponents are going to do is the problem. At the end of our turn we see a Wasteful Harvest, mill 5, and put a permanent from amongst them into your hand. And the client's going all buggy like it does, so probably not going to be able to see what they grab. Yeah, it just all resolved really quickly, so there's lands and a Sky Shroud Claim. According to this, it was a Reaver Titan that he grabbed back, but we can't always rely on the log there. And then he has an Entomb as well. And he shoot it into the bin. So my hope is that Winter is going to reanimate all his graveyard and get a bunch of big flashy stuff into play, and then we can wipe it with living death and get our stuff back. I suppose if I'd planned it out a bit better, then I wouldn't have gone for Teval, but we can still swing in with this and get a land back next turn. Lumra, Bellow of the Woods. When it enters, mill 4, and then I think you get all the lands back with this. Yes, you do. So that's a hell of a lot of lands he just got into play off that. There's Reflecting Pool, Darksteel Citadel, Dakmor Salvage, a fetch. Yeah. And then Winter again to the left, and again we get the 8-4. I'm going to actually block it this time, I think. Mills 3 again with Winter. So our opponent will get 2 chumps this time. And then see what Winter decides to reanimate here. And decides to grab himself a Noxious Gearhulk to blow something up. The client keeps crashing on us, so it's very difficult to follow what the hell's going on. Can't see the graveyard. There's a Kraytooth Behemoth here, which is noteworthy with the awesome new artwork. Yeah, I'm sure you can follow it better than me because I've edited it together by the time you're seeing it, but the Gearhulk came down with the Commander. There we go, Rise of the Dark Realms. So many graveyard players in play, you assume it's going to happen eventually. So, the problem is it reanimates our graveyard as well, doesn't it? Got ahead of myself for a second there. Not much point going living death with an empty graveyard. I just had a feeling that Winter was going to grab back a bunch of really heavy stuff from his graveyard. And if he were to empty that, then that would free the way for living death. And now the client is truly crashing out. There's probably going to be a lot of triggers here. Yeah, look at all that. So he takes our Noxious Gearhulk. There's a Sir Conrad, bunch of triggers. Titania will return a land from graveyard to the battlefield, I think. Spring Bloom ramps. Terastodon can blow up 3 things. There are 2 Noxious Gearhulk triggers. Necron of Duality, destroy up to 1 creature. Target player mills 3. Ravenous is going to blow things up as well. So we might have to use Living Death as a board wipe after all if our commander goes down. There's an Avenger of Zendikar has hit play, or 2 Avenger of Zendikars. We're seeing a lot of duplicate creatures by the looks of it. Yeah, there's 2 of them there. Which means Landfall is going to put 2+ counters on all the plants. So Teval has seen stuff leave the graveyard, which means it gets a Druid token. And then Sir Conrad going to deal a bunch of damage to everyone. I think that's about 11 damage. Terastodon is pointed at a Mesmeric Orb. Our guy's Cradle, that's a shame. It's just one of those games where we're not going to get to do anything. And a basic over here for some reason. I don't think Winter's getting the respect he deserves. I'd be focusing on Winter's stuff personally. I can understand the guy's Cradle, but the basic of the Naya player doesn't make much sense. A land left the graveyard with Titania, so that's landfall twice for the Avenger of Zendikar, a mana from the Lotus Cobra, and I think this is a plus counter as well. Yeah, the client's going to end up crashing on us. Floral Evoker, I'm sure, is plus counter on this creature. Get a zombie from the Teval. The plants from the Zendikar haven't actually entered yet, so he didn't stack it all correctly. If you can get haste on everything, there is that Crater Hoof there, don't forget. That should be on the bottom of the pile here. Seems as though there is a plant here anyway, though. A Dune Chanter is probably the Naya player's creature. It's a shame about losing the Gaia's Cradle because I was maybe thinking of blowing this up before casting the Living Death, but I mean we just basically have to wipe the board here. Our Sidisi has been blown up. Winter has ended up back in the command zone as well. Ravenous Chupacabra goes after Lumra. Is there anything that doesn't have summoning sickness here? I can't keep track of it all. Well anyway, there's everything's at like north of 40 life. Oh, the actual Kraytooth has haste and trample, doesn't it? So that could soon take someone out. Burning Rune Demon after that. He's lost life somehow. Probably to some kind of pain mana or something. So he's going to draw cards. Might be able to get a couple of haste enablers here. And revealed there it was a wonder to give everything flying. And Phantasmal Image, he was obviously given that. That was put into hand. So plays the Phantasmal Image. All his stuff, I imagine, has flying now. Yep, flying and trample. I'm assuming he's going to get the win here. That is Kraytooth Behemoth again. So he just one-shots everyone here. He's got a couple of hasty Kraytohoofs. He must have another creature that was already in play without summoning sickness. So everything is now north of 100 power. Or near enough everything anyway. Yeah, so we can attack him with 3 creatures. So this is the victory. A 107, 107. Flying Trample Haste. And another one there as well. That's a 104, 104 Flying Trample Zombie. And a 103, 105 Sidisi. So definitely has us. Unless someone has a fog. So yeah, that game was a bit all over the place, but at least we got to see some crazy win by the end there. We were last in the turn order and we just seemed to be on the back foot throughout all of it, like trying to somewhat control Winter. Never really got anything going with our commander whatsoever. But these are the type of games that you get on Magic Online, so hopefully you all got some enjoyment out of it. Big thank you to the patrons for their financial support as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.